Hello, welcome to the 2021 Groundwater Festival in a virtual reality setting. My name is Finch. I'm the director of the Raptor Conservation Alliance, that's formerly known as Raptor Recovery Nebraska. We have been around for 45 years and have handled well over 14,000 raptors or birds of prey. We're here today to tell you about the raptor connection with groundwater. It may not look visible from the surface, although there are surface features like streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, and wetlands that you can see. But the other important part is the groundwater beneath our feet. We're going to present to you several of our ambassadors today, teach you about their connections to groundwater, and then we have a little assignment for you.
My name is Carrie Hans, and this is Halsey, and it is a pleasure to be at the Groundwater Festival live. So Halsey is a great horned owl. He came to our Raptor Center back in February of 1997. He was a collision injury. He had been hit by a car out near Champion, Nebraska, and he was left for dead along their highway. Luckily, we have volunteers throughout the state who help us to get birds transported into the Lincoln, Omaha, and Kearney areas to get them the medical attention that they do need. Halsey was lucky. Nothing was broken. Most collision injuries will leave a bird with a broken wing, a broken clavicle, paralysis, something. Halsey took the hit with his head, and because of that, he sustained a severe head concussion. He is brain damaged because of that. Now, head injuries, normally we will give the bird anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to bounce back neurologically. If they do not bounce back in that amount of time, that wild mindset for them is probably not going to return. So for us, Halsey has been a great educational bird for us, as well as being a great foster dad for us. That February, horned owls start nesting as early as January or February here in the state of Nebraska. Halsey is panting right now if anybody wants to know what's going on with this bird. They do not sweat like we do. They pant just like a dog or a cat would. So if they get warm from lights or heat or anything such as that, they will pant to keep their body temperature down. So Halsey was amazing as far as willingness to take care of babies for us. That January or February, horned owls are hatching out babies. Those babies are coming in. Normally there's nothing wrong with the babies. Maybe a nest tree blew down or, something that has brought those birds to us. And in turn, if we have a foster parent, all the better, because those owls will take care of those offspring even though they are not their own. So Halsey has over 50 babies to his credit. The neat part is those babies imprint or bond with this specific owl, and they know what they are. They're owls, they're not people. If we take care of them, they will become more like human beings. They will everything back in place. Very good. They will associate with people. They imprint or bond with us. So if we have foster parents on hand, that's a wonderful thing for us because they will take care of those babies just like they were their own. Horned owls, tigers of the forest, tigers with wings, thus we've named him Halsey after one of our national forests here in the state of Nebraska. Even though they are a large owl, Halsey is a male, so he's a little bit on the small side. If he were a female, he'd be about 1/3 larger than what you see here. He weighs about 2.5 to 3 pounds. A good-sized female would weigh at least 4 pounds. And wing spread from tip to tip, 4.5 to 5 feet is not out of range for these birds. So when they're in full flight, that's how far those wings will stretch. The horns or the ear tufts are there on the top of their heads. They are there to help them blend in or camouflage. And with that, I want to show you how well they do camouflage. If you imagine Halsey up in the bark of his tree, you can see how he just becomes part of his natural surroundings. These guys do not build nests. They will take over anything that is available out there, whether it's a broken out cottonwood, whether it is the top of a grain elevator, whether it's a potted plant on a 3rd floor balcony in Omaha, Nebraska. Wherever there's a good source of food, that's where they're going to lay their eggs. As far as groundwater and owls, we are looking at things that will impact them both negatively and positively. And there is a study that was done out in Imperial Valley, California, regarding burrowing owls and the impact of water irrigation out in that valley because it's near the Sonoran Desert, and just the impact of those water levels and how much that can have a negative or a positive impact on the birds that live in that area. So groundwater, as far as food source, as far as the plants and vegetation that it brings about, as far as the nesting and nearby tree structures and such, all of that plays a very important role in the survival of these birds out in the wild. So with that, Halsey, can you show them your wings? And how about one last hoop? Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Doug Finch. I'm the president of Raptor Conservation Alliance, and today with us we have Gemini. Gemini came to us from the Wild Bird Sanctuary in St. Louis. He's captive raised, so he's pretty much a trained educational bird, and he is actually a European barn owl. Now, he is very similar to our native barn owl here in the States. He's just a little bit smaller and a little bit whiter. And this is a male. Males are usually a little bit lighter in this species than the females. And in this variety, he's quite a bit whiter. But the reason we're talking about barn owls today is their importance with farming and farming practices. Barn owls are excellent mousers. The regular barn owl will eat anywhere between 2 to 3 to 5 mice a day as an adult, but the important thing is when they have young, they can have as many as 5, 7, or even 9 babies in a clutch at a time. And if you multiply that by a factor of 5, feeding the babies as they're growing up, a family of say 4, just 2 babies and 2 adults can eat upwards of 2,000 mice in a season as they're growing. So as you can imagine, that's quite a benefit to farmers. They have found out that they're very beneficial in the South as far as the sugarcane fields go. They will eat rats, so they're good at that, and they're very much our friend here in the States. Before the Midwest was colonized, they would typically nest in say cliff faces and trees that were hollowed out, and when this became colonized with the pioneers and such, they put up barns, and they ended up being habitated to the barns, or habituated to the barns. So hence the name barn owl, and the same is true in Europe. When they started putting up barns, they went there as a more convenient place to live. Barn owls have exceptional hearing, just like all owls. They hunt just as much by sound as they do by sight. These guys are very well adapted to various climates. They can be found all throughout the United States, South and Central America. They can be found even as far away as Australia, and all across Europe. As I stated, with this being a European version. These guys have silent flight. The edges of their feathers are kind of comb-like, which helps to break up the air as they fly. So if you ever see a barn owl, you'll very rarely hear it coming, because they're very, very quiet. And he's not liking us just as much, but he'll get over that. As you can see, he's always looking around. He's always aware of what's around him, because in the wild, these can be food for other species, such as the great horned owl that you had seen previously. These guys aren't terribly long-lived, maybe 1 or 2 years at most. So as a result of that, they have to breed rather quickly and rather profusely. They can have here in the Midwest, they can have maybe 2 clutches of babies, 2 batches. Other places they can have as many as 3 to 5 in a season, just depending on the climate where they find themselves. This guy, he probably only weighs, I would say, maybe 8 to 10 ounces. They don't weigh much more than that. They look a lot more than they look like they weigh a lot more than that. But most of what they have is feathers, and their bones are typically hollow in the raptor species. His talons are very, very sharp, as you can see. That's not something you want to have grab you, because they may be pretty small, but they're awfully strong for their size. And what else can I say about this guy? I know that they've used him in various movies and such. They're a pretty popular species to have for shoots like that, but these birds you cannot have as a pet. At least the native species. This one is a European variety, so there is a market for them, but they don't make very good pets. And because you can't housebreak them, and they fly everywhere. So anyway, that's all I had to say about this guy, so we'll move on to the next.
Well, we've gone from something pretty good size to something that's pretty small at this point. This is Gemini. He is one of our resident falcons at Raptor Conservation Alliance. This is our smallest falcon that we have here in the state of Nebraska. This is the American kestrel, or known as the sparrowhawk. And this is a male. We know that from his coloring and his overall appearance. With all birds of prey, males are usually smaller than their female counterparts. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell, because when you have very small birds, the size doesn't look that different. But they do have very distinct features. If you look at this cute little guy, he's got the very dark eyes. That is very prevalent. The owl had the bright yellow eyes. Well, not this little kestrel. His eyes are dark brown. And if you look above his beak, right here, he's got what is referred to as a sear. And for him, it is very brightly colored. He is pulling at his jesses right now. Those are what keep the birds on our hands. Every bird that we take out to the public for display wears a jess. And a jess is just a little piece of leather strap that goes around their ankles. Now it has to be tight enough to be secure on their leg, but you don't want it too loose or their foot will slip right out of it. So he doesn't really care for his jesses a whole lot. But for us, very distinct in appearance. If you look at this little guy, look at this mustache coming down through his eye. That is called a malar patch. And that is distinct on some species of falcons. We have 4 types of falcons here in Nebraska. We have the American kestrel, we have the merlin, we have the prairie falcon, and we have the peregrine falcons. And then on occasion, we might get a jeer, but that's very, very unlikely here in Nebraska. We're really too far south for that particular species. This typical tail bob that you're seeing, that's indicative of a kestrel. That's what they do. If you see them out in the wild on a power line, telephone wire, that little tail just going up and down, up and down. If you see that, you're looking at an American kestrel. So their appearance, they're built for speed. They're not as fast as our peregrine falcons are, which can go over 200 miles per hour in a dive or a stoop. But these guys, for their size, are about as fast as they can get. Keep in mind that out in the wild, they will eat insects, they will eat mostly grasshoppers, but they will go after rodents as well. They are dark on the top if they're a female. They'll be brown almost throughout. But the little males, they have that pretty slate gray markings, so you can distinctly tell between the males and the females of this particular species. That's not true with most birds of prey. Most birds of prey, it's based on size. Girls are bigger, males are smaller. And these guys, with their locations and what they do here in Nebraska as well as throughout the United States, they are indicative of what is going on with our environment. All of these birds are barometers of what is happening in our natural world. So this is Gemini. He is very long in the toe. That's to help him catch his prey. And again, that wonderful little tail bob. You just have to love that. So very distinctive, very good. Thank you.
Although not technically classified as a raptor, turkey vultures do kind of go into that category. They do not have the strong feet that raptors have. They don't kill their own prey. They're nature's cleanup crew. They eat the dead stuff. And because they don't have the strong talons that raptors can defend themselves with, they come up with another defense. If they are harassed, a turkey vulture will throw up on you. And trust me, you do not want that to happen. It repels even raccoons. Doesn't repel other vultures, but it repels raccoons. So they're very much a part of the crew. That helps keep the environment safe. And again, a lot of they're found pretty much everywhere. I don't think they occur in any one particular place. They're all over the place because they look for dead stuff to eat and clean up. And this is Sportsy, and she came in as a half-grown chick. We fostered her to some other vultures, and she came back to us 10 days later, a bloody mess. We found out later that there was also a turkey in that enclosure, and we think the turkey cornered the chick and plucked all of its wing feathers, the primaries on both wings, out. So she was a bloody mess when she got here. Over time, they did grow back, but they started falling out again. So there was permanent damage to the feather follicles on the primaries. So we couldn't release her back to the wild. And at this point, we realized that she had pretty much bonded to me, so I can handle her and other people cannot. Another thing that vultures possess is a very strong beak. Here. To cut into dead prey, dead animals. Some people like to call them razor lips. And she'll take those off if she can. That pretty much concludes our presentation for you. Now I have an assignment for all of you, remembering that some of these connections to groundwater are not obvious. So I want you to look up some different raptors, look up their habitats and what they eat. And we have a list of those birds for you at the end of the presentation. Thank you.